Hello, everyone. My name is Rochelle Innocent, and I'm the founder and CEO of Project Purpose. Welcome to our channel. Our community is focused on fostering the intellectual and character development in children. We do this through our parent-child workshops that are focused on 4 themes: autonomy, self-efficacy, compassion, and self-concept, in order to cultivate grit, perseverance, and resilience in each child. And we are so thrilled to be offering one of the first of its kind digital, virtual, and continuous learning environments, enabling parents and children to connect from all around the world. At Project Purpose, our overarching mandate is to renew and rebuild family, community, and relationships. Our different social media platforms provide us with an opportunity to have discussions and to create space on all topics that relate to family, community, and relationships with ourselves as well as with others, with a primary focus on mental health and education. More precisely, the ways that the institutions of mental health and education play a role and have played a role in our societies at large. These discussions and debates provide us with an opportunity to think critically about what needs to change within these structures for us to live up to our bold slogan: support, protect, and empower each child through youth-focused development, better known as leadership in juvenescence. We recognize that in valuing our children's leadership potential, this also translates as recreating and co-creating environments, both socially and politically, that will enable our children to thrive. For those of you who are particularly keen on the topic, we also write thought pieces every other Sunday. We actually just dropped a thought piece this past Sunday. So be sure to meander over to the website and check out our online content. Now, if it is the case that you're looking for a listening alternative, we're available wherever podcasts are playing, and we've provided you with access to a few links down below. Now, as is the convention, be sure to subscribe, hit that post notification bell so that you are aware of every time we post. And of course, if you like these conversations and you want to keep them going, like, comment, and share this segment. Let's get into it. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another segment here on Project Purpose. For those of you who are new, we cover topics that relate to mental health, mental wellness, and education on a week-by-week basis. And today's topic of discussion is mental health. And on the topic of mental health this week, I want to talk about finding our healing back in nature. And so for me, I was born and raised in the countryside, but only when I started experiencing really traumatic events in my life did I realize that there is something about reconnecting with nature that is ultimately very healing. And a lot of us were so caught up in city life and in stimulation and being engaged and being constantly, attended to by having our attention kind of be split across so many different places that we don't recognize that it's not attending to something else that is required when we need an opportunity to find balance, to find center within ourselves, and to find grounding. It's really to find ourselves back in nature. At least that was my experience. And so during the pandemic, a lot went on in my life. A lot of relationships ended during the pandemic, and a lot of it was my choice. I decided that it was time for me to move away from toxicity, and that meant ending a lot of very significant relationships in my life. And if you have experienced a break from a relationship that is fairly significant, you lose part of yourself, right? And it's a part of yourself that clung to that relationship, so it's part of yourself that you needed to lose regardless, but that's a significant loss depending on the people that you've decided to go no contact with. And because I went no contact with a large majority of my community, of family members, I felt completely at a loss. And I felt to myself that what I needed to do was to kind of remove myself from city living and go back in nature. I became a bit of a recluse. And so at that point, when I made that call, by the time I was experiencing the pandemic, I had really been acclimatized to big city living. I had moved to Toronto during my university years, and then I kind of hopped city to city. The next big city that I lived in after Toronto was Paris. And a lot of the traveling that I did was really in cities. Like, I didn't really move away from the stimulation, the excitement, the engagement that really involved just being surrounded by people. But the only issue is I was surrounding myself with the wrong people. And when I realized I needed an opportunity to find center and to find healing and to make myself whole again, whatever that looked like, I needed to remove myself from people. I needed an opportunity to find solitude so that I could hear myself very clearly by way of what it was that I needed to kick off my healing journey in a significant significant way to make sure that I was making the most out of the really tough calls that I was making. And I found that nature, disconnecting from the engagement, from the stimulation, from the sound, and from the movement, from the lights, and from everything that really made city living very appealing to me, was what was ultimately the basis and the foundation of my healing. And even when I moved away from nature, I explained I experienced some stalking. I was being stalked and being terrorized. But there's just something about nature that keeps you from losing yourself in a lot of that stress, right? And so I was definitely very stressed out. I was going through a lot of grief. I was dealing with a lot of betrayal. I was experiencing just such a significant loss that I recognized fundamentally it was nature that held me. It was my anchor. And there's just so much healing that is done that is nonverbal when you're in nature. And maybe this healing is done in non-verbally in the city. I mean, that wasn't my experience, so I can't speak to that. But I find that a lot of us, when we are seeking some form of calibration, we find some eclectic experience, right? Like whether it's like drinking a lucid tea or like using some sort of substance to give ourselves an opportunity to see ourselves in a different way. Like we explore other stimulating activities to try to find our way back to ourselves. And I find that it's more of the same, right? It's different, but it's the same. And I think that if it is those things that are giving you a sense of anxiety and making you feel like you need a break, that you need a pause, that you need to give yourself an opportunity to recalibrate, it's less of those things that are really gonna be what brings you back to center, right? I think that for those of you who are seeking healing, but trying to also cling to the things that you need healing from, it's a difficult truth to be able to admit to yourself when you recognize that in order for you to really heal, there are certain aspects of what your normal is that need to change. And that means that there are people who need to change permanently or environments that need to change. There's this saying, and I totally believe that it's true, that you cannot heal in the same environment that hurt you. But a lot of us are trying to heal while holding on to the environments that hurt us. We don't want that much change to take place. Like we want the healing to happen, but we want much of what it is that we enjoy about our environments to stay the same. But I think that it's really important that there's a sacrifice with healing. There are things that we have to cut off or cut away from in order to be able to really lean in to that healing process and to allow us to be emancipated, right? Allow our identity to evolve into new habits, new routines, new interests, so on and so forth. So I think sometimes it is the things that we anchor ourselves to, the things that we identify too closely with, that can be what really create a hindering block in our healing. And I think give yourself an opportunity to just explore, right? To see what environments are really conducive to your healing and how that shifts and changes your interests and shifts and changes the people that you want to be affiliated with or associated to, and shifts and changes even what it is they're looking for in life. And I think that giving myself that opportunity, but first giving myself the peace and the quiet and the stillness that comes with nature, has really allowed me to explore horizons that I would have never thought to 5 years ago, that I never thought would be, part of the story that was my story, but it ended up being the story that my healing required. And so that's how the chapter book is going to be unfolding moving forward. It's not about creating habits and routines that keep me rooted in dysfunction, which is what I was kind of doing. Is really allowing the healing process and the environments that my healing takes me to create habits, tendencies, routines that are shifting and changing and flexible and malleable as life needs me to be, right? Being present means not being so stuck on some process or some aspect of predictability that you're hindering your ability to grow. And I think that I am someone who loves predictability. I love routine, but I've recognized that I can love those two things while still being malleable and adaptable and allowing them to shift and change with the tide. So that was my feedback for you. Find yourself in nature if you need to recalibrate, if you need to recenter. Remove yourself from the environments that are creating stress and anxiety for you. And when I say remove yourself, like I did a 2-year removal, like during the pandemic and even the year after, as I was kind of figuring myself out what my next steps were and if that was in Canada or elsewhere, like I gave myself a solid 8 months to figure that out and to really then commit to that plan moving forward. And I say give yourself that time. There's no rush when it comes to healing. It took a while for us to build the dysfunction that we're trying to break away from. So give yourself also the time to heal, but reconnect with nature, reconnect with silence, with stillness. Don't let anyone tell you that there's something maladaptive or wrong with being in solitude, with being alone with your thoughts, with finding peace in mastering your thoughts as well. And I find that there's something so magical, so beautiful, and so therapeutic and healing about nature that I couldn't get from any retreat in order to really maximize on the healing that they know that they need. And anyway, that is it it, but definitely not all. Now, before letting you go, I would be remiss if I didn't let you know that we will be going live at least twice a month, every month for the foreseeable future on our Facebook page. So definitely be sure to tune in. Now, these events are paid events, so if you do see yourself participating in our community on an ongoing basis, then I do suggest that you take a look at one of our package plans. Yes, so we do offer package plans over and above our live events, as well as access to webinars and workshops largely focused on self-mastery over and above those events. So check it out. Be part of our Game Changer community, being part of the change that you want to see, allowing us a small role to play in your journey. We are on the road to 1K, so we do invite you to follow us across all of our social media platforms, and we look forward to chatting with all of you very soon. We'll talk to you later.